Welcome to the first edition of Arlington Community Media's Black History Month series. I'm joined by Oni Wakoba. And Oni, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Zach. I'm very happy to be here.
So you're by trade a legal professional, but you work in negotiations now. Can you tell me a little bit about the journey to where you are now?
Oh, certainly. I started out at my company helping them with an acquisition. I actually remember because we were in a room of a lot of lawyers. It was a lot of lawyers. I basically transitioned out of that role into negotiating to help them secure their assets, and it was actually quite accidental. I wasn't sure if I would be good at it, and because it's really a different kind of intelligence and assessment, but it turned out to be really great, so I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
You mentioned that you knew you wanted to be an attorney from a pretty young age. You said you were at a British school in Nigeria before you came to Arlington, and even then you knew you wanted to be an attorney. What sparked that interest?
I think it had a lot to do with being in a country where the laws were not enforced and just seeing the impact that that had on the community. I think that something that I do love about developed worlds or countries is that the rule of law has been established and has been greatly thought about and enforced and it essentially to help out the citizens just to live a better existence. And I thought that I wanted to be involved in that in some ways, just really examining the rules and coming up with ways to make humanity like a better place in some way.
Did you have any mentors or teachers early on who helped catalyze that interest?
Absolutely. I think it's very hard to be successful without support, and I think my dad was instrumental in terms of always telling me that I could do it, even though I was a very, very tiny girl. And I have 3 brothers, so I grew up in a very male-dominated house, and I know that when my father bought them toy guns, I got one too. I used to put the toy guns on my Barbies. So, and I think that he was really instrumental in letting me know that I could achieve whatever I wanted to, as long as I put my mind to it and worked hard and kept focused.
So, tell me a little bit more about your family. It sounds like it was a very, nurturing, encouraging situation. What made you all move to the United States? What brought about that change?
We actually are a mixed family. My father is Nigerian and my mother is American. They met at Vanderbilt, so they're college sweethearts. And we lived here for a while. He was a professor and taught at Vanderbilt, moved around, and I think when he wanted to go back to Nigeria for a little bit. We went back with him, and then we went to boarding schools, and then came back and in order to go to college pretty much. And then we've all kind of stayed and scattered around, and so we are a mixed family and we're an international family, and we've lived in both. And
also an Arlington local in some ways. You were a graduate of Arlington High School. You spent a year there.
Yeah.
We had a nice talk about the difference between your schooling in Nigeria and here in Arlington. Can you tell us a little bit about the differences, maybe similarities?
I thought that Arlington High had a wonderful curriculum. I remember that. I really enjoyed the classes, and I did appreciate that they rewarded hard work, which was one of the first things that I saw was, I believe after my first day, I had written an essay. They were like, well, what did you read this summer? And I was like, I read a lot, and they were like, just write something so we'll figure out where to place you. And I had written this piece, I think it was on a John Grisham novel, I don't remember. And I was, immediately put in like honors English, and I loved that you could distinguish yourself and that they had different grades for your skill level. I didn't really have that before. We all just took the same classes and, you were graded against each other. But there seemed to be a reward system that I appreciated.
And you took some I would say pre-law classes there too, right?
That's correct, yes. I was trying to take any legal class I could that I had access to. So I remember taking constitutional law, and I took maybe legal principles or something. And I was pre-law in college as well, so I started early.
All right, and welcome back to this second edition of Arlington Community Media's series on Black History Month, focused on folks from Arlington. Today I'm joined by Marine Second Lieutenant Monye Wokuba. Monye, thank you so much for being with us here.
Oh, wonderful. It is a pleasure.
I know a little bit about your background pre-service. You were all around the world. You're well-traveled. Can you tell me a little bit about where you grew up?
Basically, I was born in 1995. I was born in Port Harcourt, which is in southern Nigeria. I went to elementary school in the region, Port Harcourt as well. Then at 11, after the 6th grade, I moved to western Nigeria, the border between the west and northern Nigeria, a place called Kwara State. I went to a British-influenced boarding school in Offa, Kwara State for 6 years, from about 2006 to 2012. After that, I moved to the States officially. I'd been visiting on and off for my summers, and when I moved here, I went to Harvard Extension School for a semester, like kind of just to get a feel of the American education system. Then I transferred down to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, where I got my Bachelor's of Science in Aerospace Engineering. So that's kind of the background pre-service. And as for my travels, those were just maybe some summer expeditions in between school semesters.
Well, that must have been a big transition. I mean, you were only in the States for, 6 months or so before you headed off to extension school and then on to Embry-Riddle?
A little, yes, in the sense, because basically I've just been here for my summer, so I've just been here on a more vacation standpoint. So when I came here for the extension school, I even think I missed one class because of something with the airline. So immediately I got here, I was off to class the next week.
Wow.
So it was kind of a big transition because you come here for vacation, like you go to Martha's Vineyard, the Cape, then finally you're supposed to get up and take the 77 and go to class. So yeah, it was a big transition.
Well, you must have been ready to do it. Obviously, you succeeded at a very high level. And Embry-Riddle, especially the studies that you chose to take on while you were there, are top-level stuff. What was your experience like in college?
My experience in college was that of a lack of sleep. Let's just get out of the way. But I enjoyed my college experience. I would say that it was very challenging, but also very rewarding. I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it, because every morning when you wake up as an aerospace engineering major, you're pushing yourself to the limit. So to be honest, that was my reward from it, working hard, doing my best in a field that I love, and basically setting myself up for a good future. So my college experience was also challenging as well, because the aerospace engineering program at Embry-Riddle is extremely tough. They make sure to basically put you through the ringer. So on that, I had to work extremely hard just to keep a good GPA, maybe my work-life balance wasn't all the best. It was downright horrible, but it was an experience I enjoyed.
Well, you mentioned kind of themes of working hard, having a goal and going after it. And obviously after graduation, you went on to serve your country in the Marines as a second lieutenant. So it seems like there's a theme here to your life so far. What drew you to serve?
What drew me? Basically, I was always thinking about the military, trying to go in. So what drew me to the military was, to be honest, I thought it would just be a good experience after college. It was one of those things that it seemed exciting. It seemed like an adventure, something to do. I don't think I was just ready to straight out of college, just go work for an engineering firm. I was like, that seems, I don't know, how should I say, I think I wanted a little more twist in my story. So the military is what drew me to me. What drew me to the Marine Corps specifically was the Marine Corps is the most military branch and the hardest to get into. So I guess the theme you're talking about is I like difficulty. So that was why the Marine Corps stood out to me, because I knew it would be the challenge. They have the hardest physical fitness test and an additional combat fitness test, as well as the longest boot camp and probably the hardest officer training. So just knowing, because I believe with great challenge and hard work comes great reward. So to be honest, I just wanted a very good reward from my military service. So that is why, like I said, what drew me to the military and specifically the Marine Corps.
Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everyone must change. No one stays the same. The young become the old, and mysteries do unfold, 'cause that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are not many things in life you can be sure of, except rain comes from the clouds, sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds do fly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm James Milan, and today I have the pleasure of embarking on a conversation with Leslie Christopher, who I last saw just a couple of months ago here at Town Hall in the auditorium as part of the MLK celebration, where she rocked the building with the depth and the power and the beauty of her voice. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about today as part of this conversation in a series of talking to people who have achieved professional success and about how exactly what their own path was, because there's any number of paths. And we just want to find out what the details are. In Leslie's case, share that with all of you so that you can recognize that there are, as we said, any number of alternative ways to get to the place that Leslie sits at today. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. And I wasn't just being nice.
It's
That
my
was a
honor
heck of a
and
performance.
my privilege. Thank you. Thank
Back
you.
a couple of months, and I'm sure that that's similar to everything that you do, but it
I
was
like to
really
think so.
enjoyable. Absolutely. So speaking of that, just tell us a little bit about your own background, including, obviously, I've mentioned your singing prominently. I imagine that's been part of your life from a very early age.
From a very early age. According to my mother, I first hit the stage at age 4. And my mother was is an actress, and she's done directing and playwriting and producing. And of the 3 kids, I caught the bug. And at age 14, I entered myself into a talent competition. And I didn't tell her until after I was accepted into the competition, and then, you got to get the gowns and all that stuff. Well, now you got to tell Mom.
At which point, exactly, it's not going to be a secret.
So I think at that point she realized, okay, maybe there's something there. She's really interested in this. And I was signed up to take voice lessons with Joy Blackett, who was Bermuda's very first opera singer. And I started there, but believe it or not, refused to sing opera.
Is that right?
I did not want to sing anything classical. I did a lot of Broadway.
Well, you were a
the show
14-year-old
teams.
girl, right?
Right. So just the thought of doing opera was like, okay, no way. We're just not going to do this at all. And it was years later